So today we're going to be talking about this, the ingenious fork. What's a fork got to do with architecture? I'm Roger Borland from Borland Architecture, and I'm going to try and explain to you why a fork is a great example for good home design. You see, a fork is multi-purpose. It's got prongs on it, which means that you can stab food and just eat it direct, whatever that food may be, as long as it's got some body to it. You can scoop food with the spoon-like feature, and the curve within the fork itself allows for capacity to put food on top. You can hold food so that you can cut it with a knife. And what's even better about this is the whole purpose of this in the first place was to stop us using our hands to eat the food. It came at a time whenever there was a lot of disease around that was passed from unwashed hands to food that then came to our mouth, and that passed disease into our bodies and made us unhealthy. So the fork has been potentially involved in saving millions of lives. Who knows? That's a stat I made up, by the way. It could be anything. But it's a great example of something that we don't think about very much. That is a functional tool that is well thought out and well considered, and we don't even need to think about its use. So good architecture and good design should work in the same way. We're going to run through a floor plan today, a floor plan that we've been developing for a client as a concept, just to try and capture their brief, which has got certain, well, whenever we go in and ask for a brief from a client, we ask about a lot of functional requirements in the home, not just now, but into the future, and getting our clients to really think about how the functionality of that home may need to change and adapt over time to really suit their needs. So we want to just have a look at that in plan form, see what that means, see what you could do to actually replicate some of these ideas and use them within your own project. So hopefully that'll be very useful to you. Okay, so here's the floor plan we're going to have a look at today. This is an existing project in concept design stage, and we always start with sketch drawings because it just allows us to have a bit more fluid ideas, and putting ideas down paper, we can easily trace over the top of these, move things around. And in this case, this is still very early days on this project, but there are some key fundamental ideas in here in regard to functional simplicity that I just want to highlight to you, so that, yeah, maybe you can use similar ideas in your own project. The first one, let's start over here with a garage. So this is a 3-car garage, as you can see, with an additional workshop. This particular client has a skill for working on old cars and doing workshop type activities, and so they wanted a larger space for that. What's more is they actually wanted potentially in the future to expand this to create another workshop in the garden space out here. And so this door at the northern side of the garage here is that connection through to the garage, which is obviously useful just for maintenance, but will also allow for that future building in the garden later on. The other thing to highlight here is this particular door. And so the door direct from the garage through the house, pretty straightforward thing, obviously, but it just makes good common sense. Whenever you're coming home with your groceries, you can park in a nice dry garage, take your groceries and straight into the habitable space itself. Then I just want to highlight the entry of the building here. So obviously the form of an entry can be whatever you want it to be, but it should be an element that really draws you towards the building. In this case, we've used a couple of curves at the entry here, which really create a sort of embracing element into the building itself. And that then comes to a double height glazed entry with a solid door in it that allows you into the building. But once we come in here, this particular client again wanted to have a separation between the kitchen dining area, which is over here, and then a separate living space. And because they value the separation here, they realize that these two spaces can be noisy in different ways, and that that noise can be quite disruptive. And so the open plan arrangement doesn't really work for them. And the only thing I would say here is at the entry, you can see that there's this wall, and this is a batten type wall that we're proposing in here. And we may add in some sliding doors either side of this so that it completely closes off this kitchen dining area, and then we create more of a formal corridor, if you like, with a stair in it as part of the entry leading to the living room. That's a discussion we will be having with the client in regard to how they want to do that. But at the moment, we've left it as an element that defines the space, but without actually being too formal. And what it also does at the moment is it allows views as soon as you come into the building straight through into the garden. And it also extends this space visually right through to here. And so it makes the house feel more spacious. And it's not necessarily a function, but it's more to do with the aesthetic of the building in regard to this one. What is more to do with function is the proximity of cloakroom, a seat, and somewhere just to take your shoes and coats off to the entry. So there's a couple of key elements here. Obviously, the entry itself, that seat which allows for shoes to be taken off, somewhere to hang up cloaks, and then a powder room adjacent to that as well. So if you want to just quickly go to the bathroom, if you're outside working or whatever, it's within close proximity to the entry and nice and easy to manage. Likewise with the laundry here, so you can kind of see that we've got a bank of utilitarian features kind of adjacent to the entry, but also adjacent to specific living spaces here. And with the laundry specifically, the intent here is that whenever you're working in the kitchen, you may have laundry on at the same time. And so you can do a bit of multifunction work across these two spaces. And also the external doors then will lead out to the garden, which is good for both the kitchen, for outdoor dining areas, and also the laundry if you wanted to hang clothes outdoors as well. So we're kind of using single elements and for multi-purposes. The kitchen itself, it's a little bit of an unusual design, this one, to be honest, and it's again driven by the client who really wants to have this outlook as they're in the kitchen cooking. And so we're likely to have a good amount of glazing here on the north of this building and the kitchen, so that whenever you are cooking in here, you will have that full aspect of the garden. Likewise, for anybody sitting around the island bench, they will also have that extended view in over the kitchen with a glass splashback space there, which we may do as a full height glazing without overheads in that area, just to get lots of really nice light into the space. And then it leads into a butler's pantry and a larder that's built in here. This particular client again has a deep passion for growing their own fruit and vegetables, and so they'll be doing pickling and various things, and they will store their produce in the larder through here. So nice close proximity to the kitchen, easy to manage and work out in that regard. Now, over this side of the building is a very interesting functional, simplistic idea, and this is this multifunctional space. And so the intent here is that with this family, they will have relatives coming to visit quite often, and they want them to have their own base whenever they do come here. They come from overseas, so they want it to be a little bit of a home from home. So it's got its own little kitchenette. It's got its own dining space. It's got a seating area, but it's also useful then for extra study space as well. It's got a little desk in here, which can be used by the family at other times. So in normal mode, this just becomes a second living space, and maybe a kid space in the future where, you know, they can extract themselves from what the adults are doing and have their own space here. When guests are here, this is obviously really useful for isolation and for them to be able to have their own space. If you go up these stairs, I'll show you upstairs in a moment, but that takes you up to a bedroom that's associated to this space as well. And what we may do with this one as well is add a separate entry directly into the space. And the intent with that will be that this family can then lease this space out on Airbnb or short-term leases, so that they can bring some additional income in for the family as they need in the future as well. So it allows that flexibility, and that flexibility is really what functional simplicity is about, thinking about these different layers and these different times whenever the plan needs to adapt and change to different situations. With the living space on this side, as I mentioned, they wanted this to be a separate space from the kitchen dining. Now, what we may end up doing is putting some sliding doors in here, and so have the ability to open this wall up so it becomes more of an operable wall, and then this space flows a lot more seamlessly between the two spaces, but also has the ability to close off and create separate spaces. So that's a discussion we will certainly be having with the client. The other interesting thing about this is we've got an indoor living space and we've got an outdoor living space directly adjacent to each other. This has been led by this huge gum tree out here, and the intent that in the evenings the sun sets over here behind this gum tree and we get beautiful dappled light coming back towards this area. And the client was conscious of the road which sweeps around here and having some protection from that road as well, both visually and from a noise perspective. So we created this evening deck just on the northern side with views of that tree, so it has that protection, but we'll get that evening sun into that space, but also gets the afternoon or the early afternoon sun, which is high on the north side here as well, that'll feed right through into this living space, but also providing an element of solar protection to that as well. So these sort of thinking about internal rooms and external rooms and the adjacency of them is again something that is a functional idea that allows these spaces to become multi-purpose, and at different times of the year they will serve different purposes as well. And you'll see in the landscape here as well, we've got a number of these outdoor rooms. So we've obviously got the garden space itself, as we mentioned, for productivity. There's a vegetable garden, there's fruit trees and so on. A lot of these are currently existing, and that will be expanded by this client over time. We've got a single deck here, which is specifically for use of the multi-purpose space. That does connect across though to some additional spaces here, and this one is a covered pergola space with a dining table in it with the barbecue here leading from the kitchen. You grab your barbecue things and then you've got a covered seating area, and potentially we'll do an operable roof of some sort on that. And then that leads to an external seating area as well. So we've got lots of different ways that we can entertain and enjoy the garden through this space, and they're all interconnected, and you can imagine it'd be a lot of fun for the kids to run around and enjoy that space as well. Okay, so let's just move upstairs quickly so we can have a look there. So the stair leads up to this side, and at the end of the plan over here we've got a study space. Now, the intent with the study space is that it's large enough to become another multi-purpose space. So if this multi-purpose space on the other side of the building does become a permanent feature for Airbnb, let's say, then we've got an additional space here that could work for multi-purpose reasons. So Obviously, we've shown it as a study here, but it could be a kid's little rumpus room. It could be a music room, could be a library. It's even big enough to become a single bedroom. So it's got some nice alignments there for the future. It's got a little balcony, and then it overlooks that outdoor living space. And it's got a wrap of a wall that comes the whole way around, which will give it some really nice solar protection and a sense of enclosure. We're thinking that, this could be a hit and miss brickwork here, where we get another element of this dappled light sort of coming through to the space and create quite a nice atmosphere on the side of the building. And also, it's providing an element of protection from that harsh westerly sun as well. Next along the plan, we've got the two smaller family bedrooms. And so, they're reasonable size, not too big, because we don't really want the kids here to spend too much time in their bedrooms. We want them to spend time downstairs in the living spaces, socializing with the adults, and either that or in the multi-purpose space where they'll have their own space there potentially. But they are sharing a bathroom here. There's a little linen space here, which is a very important feature just for ease of bed sheets and linen and towels and generally. So that's an easy space to replenish those and manage that side of the home. And next across is the master bedroom. It's a bit of a larger space. This particular family wanted to have a small seating area adjacent to the window here for some reading in the morning whenever they wake up, and they'll enjoy that additional space. But on this side, then on the southern side of the house where we don't have as much natural light, we've got more of these utilitarian things. We've got a walk-through robe leading into an ensuite beyond that. And just there, that's the window over the top of the entry. So the entry reads as a two-story element on that facade. And through this section is the multi-purpose bedroom. So this portion of the upstairs is actually isolated from the rest, and it's only accessible through that multi-purpose space. So it allows for that to be separate and managed as a separate entity within the same building envelope, which is quite a nice little trick. So hopefully that's given you a few little insights into how you could plan homes, and also I suppose the main thing is thinking about the function of each of these spaces. How can they function in more than one way? What will happen whenever situations change in the future? What does that mean for the floor plan? How can it adapt and change and allow those functions still to happen? That's been really useful, and been able to show you some of the ways that functional simplicity can be thought about from the outset, how we use that as a tool in the design to ensure that the building design itself actually will suit your specific needs for a very long period of time. And that's what true sustainability and true quality in building is all about. So functional simplicity is our design fundamental number 2, and we next will talk about design fundamental number 3, which is health and well-being in design, and how we actually put that in as a layer as well. That's next time. So if you liked this video and got some value out of it, please hit the like button, please subscribe to the channel, and if you think there's somebody else who would really appreciate this content and would get some benefit out of it, please share it as well, and that would be great. We will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.